Well, there you have chapter 32, the second flashback chapter, to give us an insight into some key pivotal moments in the lives of both Diana Singh and Salazar Sharp, some real character forming moments which hopefully shed a little light on how they became the people they are today, by which I mean at the time of the story. I had hoped to write this in a couple of days because I wrote it back in mid-November. I'm trying to get ahead of my schedule, and it took twice as long as I expected it to. It was much harder than I thought it would be. Some very dramatic, devastating and desolating things happened in this chapter, and I found myself getting quite emotional. Also, I'm very concerned about my skill at writing these affairs of the heart, these dramatic, life-changing, devastating moments. It's not my comfort zone. I don't feel comfortable writing this stuff. I'm more at home doing gags and speeches, as you can see. Again, I wanted to do a little flashback. The first half of the chapter about Diana's life and the second half of the chapter about a key turning point in Salazar's life. The chunk in the middle with the speech and the founding of and disbandment of the second Off-World Navy sort of grew out of this organically, and I kept it in there because I wanted a little bit of comparatively light relief in between the two tragic episodes that this chapter covers of our protagonists. Don't know whether that structure works. One good thing about writing this well in advance is that I can go through and edit it so that you won't necessarily be getting a first draft. I might have been able to take a couple of passes by the time it comes time to put it up online on December the 20th. Merry Christmas, by the way. Next video entry will be after Christmas. I hope you have a good one, and peace and goodwill and all those things. One final thing before I go for this week. The moment where, in this chapter, where the little girl is born and she's not breathing, I put that in because we had just a moment of that. Just nowhere near as long as happens in the story. When our daughter was born, she didn't cry immediately as soon as she came out, and I'm there thinking the same thought that I've put Tim thinking, which is, why can't I hear crying, why can't I hear crying, why can't I hear crying? And holding Judy's hand and looking over at the doctors and seeing their backs to me, and they're working and they're intubating her and they're trying to clear her airways and get her breathing, and it was probably a few seconds, probably half a minute at most, but wowee, what a terrifying and stressful half a minute that was. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, we're not going to have a daughter, we're not going to have a daughter after all this. And so I sort of tapped into that and put that into this episode, this chapter. As I say, this was not a breezy, easy chapter to write. I wanted to, get those pivotal, dark turning points for both Diana and Salazar. I wanted to paint Tim as not entirely unsympathetic, and what happens in this chapter is the compounded central tragedy of Diana Singh's life, which goes a long way to explaining why she turned out the way she did in later adulthood. On that note, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if you're in Melbourne, or if you're in Australia and you happen to be watching Channel 9's live broadcast of Carols by Candlelight on Christmas Eve, the 24th. See if you recognise Santa. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.